What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. This is episode 54. Today, we have a special guest on the podcast. So, without further ado, you mind just introducing yourself?
Hi. My name is Gino Ghalehpardaz. I'm a professional MMA fighter. I don't know what else I'd say.
I mean,
Flyweight division, I guess. Catch weight.
yeah, I mean, just like tell everybody about yourself. What kind of got you started into like the martial arts? How long have you kind of been into martial arts? What was your first one?
Uh,
Kind of
you,
stuff like that.
yeah. I started off as I would say 90% of young kids started off karate at like around 4 years old. But having the attention span of a grape, I only was able, I only cared it so far. I actually got to like an advanced brown belt level, and then I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's
So,
better than I did.
yeah, and then what's it called? I played all kinds of different sports like hockey, lacrosse. I wrestled in high school. I even curled in high school. Anything you think of, I played soccer. Just did a little bit of everything. Um, I got back into MMA from a buddy of mine. Well, actually, I was always I liked it, but I didn't really understand it. But then I watched UFC 100 randomly. We just kind of decided to watch it because 100 is a big number. It's something to do, and we watched it, and I remember Dan Henderson's knockout of Michael Bisping just completely changed my life. I remember, I don't know, like something went, a click went off. um,
I
I
think
was like, and I wasn't, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
no.
off, but
I
just,
mean, I
I'm
was just
proud
gonna
of,
say, like, I think a lot of people, that, like, when that happened, were like, you know what, I fuck with this shit.
yeah, I actually know people who got started because of that. And like a bunch of people. And like, I was probably just like, a lot of other teams, maybe not in the best place mentally. I wasn't really like so much of a troublemaker. I just didn't fit in, it's kind of I got bullied a little bit, just like, and then just when I saw it, I was just like, this is an opportunity for me to change who I am. Maybe I was a little immature at the time for my age, maybe, whatever. That angry teenager that, looking for direction. And then I saw that, and I convinced a buddy of mine who had been training actually who was, at the time I really admired him. He was a popular guy, really nice guy. I'd known him a long time. I was like, hey man, like, take me with you. And I don't think at first he took me all that serious, but I was like, dude, let me do this. Like, I'll be there. I'll commit. He's like, all right, if you're gonna do it, you got to commit because it's hard. And and I went with him the first day, and it has been going ever since. So
Yeah, I mean, clearly, big fucking black belt in jiu-jitsu and shit, and now, like, look at you,
yeah,
4-2 in MMA. Like, and I've noticed newer age MMA fighters don't really go for an amateur career much anymore. It's like fair and few between. You though, you had a really impressive amateur career. Like, I think your only loss was Cody Chovanec, who's like no
it,
slouch to lose to either. The guy's
yeah,
undefeated right now. Like, let's talk
yeah.
about your amateur career quick. Talk about those fights. What was it like stepping in there for the first time, knowing that like you mentally and physically prepared for just one person? It wasn't just like a random street fight. Like you're prepared for somebody who's just as talented and skilled as you.
Yeah. So, I had prior to having my first MMA, I'd done quite a bit of kickboxing and stuff, and to be honest, I wasn't that good. Like, I lost. Like, you want to know a funny story? My first kickboxing fight at the time was against a young kid. It was my first one ever. It was a smoker fight. It was a young kid by the name of TJ Laramie,
Oh my.
and I had no idea, right? And so we went 3 rounds, and then after I was like, oh, I lost decision, and then they were like, yeah, don't worry, this kid's like a multiple 20, has had 25 fights, he's a multiple time Ontario Canadian champion. I was like, so what the hell did you guys put him in there with me for? Like, uh, yeah, so I got kind of thrown in right away. Like, let's see if you can kind of do this. And at the time it was just like, get in there. Even then it was still a little bit. It's a lot more. Even smokers are a lot more organized and just better for matchups. By the time they were just throwing in everyone and anyone. Hey, get in there. We don't care about the size. Just you guys look roughly about the same size. Get in there. Whatever. In any case, like I had done a lot of those. I had competed a lot in jiu-jitsu, but I couldn't find like my mental. It just, I was taking a lot of reps. I wasn't necessarily doing the best. I wasn't doing horrible, but I wasn't doing like great. I probably lost more than I won, but I was okay with it because I was like, it's okay. These are all trial runs. None of these actually count. Um, they're gonna not. None of them are gonna count on my record. None of that, other than experience. No one's even. If I don't even talk about these, no one's gonna even know. Like it's not. You know. I'm gonna know, but I'm gonna know. I was open and honest with myself enough to be like, yeah, okay, it sucks that you feel like kind of shitty for losing, but it's like, man, these are just this is experience that actually doesn't count, so it doesn't really matter. And I was able to separate both of those things. But then I was just like, I'm just gonna get ready for MMA. So I don't care about the smoker matches. I don't care the grappling. Yes, who doesn't want to win a nice shiny medal? Of course. And I did win a couple, but that wasn't the end goal. My end goal was always MMA. Um, so then once we got, I committed. I was like, hey, listen, I want to do a fight. They got me a fight. I remember I fought at 145 at the time. I fought at every weight class you can basically think of, and it was different. There wasn't a whole lot of footage on the guy. I don't think there was any. I think there was like one Instagram picture, maybe. I just knew that he was like tall and he did Muay Thai, and I was like, okay. And then we went in there, and I remember as I'm walking in, I was dead terrified. As I was walking, I'm like, oh my god, this guy, he's like 6 feet tall. I'm 5'8". And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? But the fight ended up. The fight was like it only took me a minute and a half. I didn't get hit a single time. I threw a leg kick. I remember he threw a cross. A dick ducked underneath, shot a double, put him on his back, and submitted him. And it was okay. The thing about those amateur fights was I took them really serious. I wanted to do well, and I wanted to continue to build experience as I was doing it. And so I fought tough guys. I fought at all different weights. I just wanted to get in there and be competitive. And like you had mentioned, I fought some really really good guys who like Cody, like Liam in kickboxing, Liam Gallagher, my teammate now. It was just about building experience and having those hard fights. I knew that like nothing is ever going to come easy, but if I work really hard, it's going to be worth it. And if I just keep building, my deserve level is going to be high. Like, I am so thankful for all of those experiences because they helped shape my skill set. When after I lost to Cody, it was a really close back and forth fight. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, I lost. So there's a lot of work to be done. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I should start looking at actually taking the dieting thing seriously and kind of maybe start working my way down. Because I would just show up. I didn't even know people cut weight at amateur. I just showed up. And like I was eating on weigh-in days. In fact, one of my fights, was at 150 catch weight. I weighed 145 on the fight day. I actually lost weight from the weigh-in to the fight day. So it was just it was we're focusing on one person was great because I got to not have to worry about so many different factors and just focus on what are they good at, what are their manageable expectations in terms of what are they going to think of that I'm going to do, what are some creative outlets of things that maybe they won't expect that I could do. And so that was fun. I liked it. I took it in my mind as like a project, like a school project. So the presentations the day of the fight. So it's how hard are you going to study? How hard are you going to look for different things, different avenues? And that's just the way I always approached it. And it seems to have worked well.
Okay, yeah. Because, like you said, that in your amateur fights, you really didn't like take the weight cut seriously. Was that kind of like a change when you came into your pro career, coming into your first fight? Did
Oh,
you?
100%, 100%. Like, it just became a matter of like, dude, the reality of it is I am not a 145er. I am not a 55er. I am a 25er who is stubborn enough, who's going to take some catch weight fights. Um, and that's what it was. But the whole point of it was, the way I looked at it was, I got to get this right. The unfortunate part of a professional career in mixed martial arts, unlike many other different sports like hockey, like football, like things like that, is even if those don't work out for you, there are still avenues to do like beer league, and you can get that competitive experience out. In professional MMA, professional boxing, like there is no beer league in this. So if you don't get it right off the bat, it's done. So I was like, I'm gonna take this really serious, and it was honestly one of my coaches, Coach Jesse, who was like, dude, you're a 25er you need to actually like that's going to be your future destination. It's not 35. Look at how big these 35, and at the time, even the 35ers weren't as big as they are now. The 25ers weren't as big as they are now. Um, but he's like, we had Malcolm Gordon, um, at Adrenaline, who's the number one flyweight in Canada, and he and I are, the same size, like in terms of height. I might be a touch taller, but he was a lot more ripped. He's like, if he's a 25er, you're also a 25er. There's no sense. You're not fighting at 145. Look how big some of these guys are. And so that was always in the back of my head. I was like, well, amateur, I just want to compete. But once it hits professional, it's for real. And I'm going to take it seriously. And I mean, that's what we've done.
I mean, yeah, like clearly, like yeah, you dropped your first fight, but like it was like it's clearly that you started to take it seriously upon the first fight because even when you dropped that, you still went back to the drawing board clearly and then
Mm-hmm.
found ways. Like your fighting style is very much like I need to figure my opponent out as the fight's going on, and you very much show that you have heart. So it's very much like you are
Appreciate
stubborn, I guess you could say. You won't quit.
it.
Like I
Yeah.
mean, at PFC 14, for example, like the first time I ever saw you fight live,
Mm-hmm.
um, you got hit with some decent shots, but like immediately you figured out like his weakness is grappling. So you're going to take him to the ground, take his back, threaten submissions because he's just going to stay there and focus on that. And obviously, the judges are looking for activity. And if you just keep threatening those submissions, it's gonna get you the fight. So like you clearly showed, or you clearly noticed, you're like, I need to keep taking this guy down. His weakness is like if I'm on his back or if I'm on top of him threatening submissions, he doesn't know to kind of look for an opening to kind of scramble. He just focuses on fighting the wrists or trying to untrap his leg or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And even your last fight at BTC 21, you got hit with some bombs, man. Like you got hit hard and still like dug
Yeah.
deep and just really showed that even though like you were getting hit with some bombs, you're like, nah, man, I'm in this. I'm gonna figure it out. And you ended up getting like a very close majority decision, but like at the end of the day, man, it shows that like each fight you're improving more and more. Like
Appreciate it.
your grappling was like phenomenal against a guy who was very much not no slouch at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest, I'm one thing I really like is I like listening to other fighters. And I remember Chael Sonnen said this thing, and and I was kind of just starting out, and it really stuck with me. And he said, like, if you're in a position that you want, that's a good position. Um, and to keep that position, you have to work. So you have to work to keep it. So I always that was a big mentality for me is even though if I'm in a position, I don't want to get stood up. I like if I'm fighting hard to get that position, then I want to keep fighting the whole time. And listen, I choose to be in there. I don't want to lose at the end of the day. So if I can move, I'm going to find a way to move. You know what I mean? Whether it's a good position, a bad position. At the end of the day, if you're moving and you're intelligent, defending yourself, the referees are going to give you a lot of leeway. And just simply just covering up and just selling for a bit is just it's not good enough. Like it's just not going to work. Right? The refs can recognize it. And one thing actually that I did after reflecting on this last one is like there's positions in the fight where I know like I've watched it looks worse than it is. Like I was fine in a certain position, but then upon reflecting on it, and then everyone's saying like, "Hey, you looked kind of like a little bit of trouble." Like in the first, what I realized is I knew that I wasn't, but the reality is that everyone in the audience doesn't think that, and then that extends to the judges, that extends to the referees. So that's something that I need to now remember and like looking forward. Maybe I got to scramble a little bit faster, even though I was working towards something that just took me half a second longer to get to. I have to remember that I may not get that half a second next time, so I have to always be stubborn enough to like be a little bit quicker on the ball on those things and just quicker on the ball in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will admit, like it looked a little sloppy, and you did look in trouble. But like, hey,
Yeah.
clearly you weren't, man, because you dug deep. You found a way to like get down and get it to the ground. And once it was to the ground, it was like, yeah, you had a little bit of trouble with him because he's a good grappler. But at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you're the superior grappler, man. So I mean, if you weren't, you weren't in too much trouble if you were able to kind of dig through and get the takedowns, get it to the ground. Because any other guy would have like you said, shelled up And to the
Hmm.
referees, to the judges, like they'll wave off the fight, or the judges will, like, if the round ends, they'll be like, yeah, that's a 10-8. He was in trouble. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you're 100% right on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go
Apologize.
ahead, man, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, these are things that you learn, um, you learn with experience and with time, and you just hope that you can learn these things. If you are learning them on the fly, you hope you can learn them without getting too hurt. So it
Okay.
worked out in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, 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 it definitely did. Is there any plans for a fight in the future, like near the end of the year? Maybe I think Prospect is planning on coming back to London. Is that kind of like a an idea?
You know, I mean, I'd like to. I am. I'll be just completely honest with you. I am. That was the worst I felt since I kind of came back from 2019. I felt really, really like just I don't know what happened. Once the wraps came on my hands, my arms felt like they weighed 2 tons. I don't know if I'm just exhausted because it'd be 5 fights in under a year and a half, and like
Mm,
that's a good strength of schedule. But I also work full time. I also have a million other responsibilities. I have a mortgage I got to pay.
yeah.
I've got, you know what I mean. So I don't know if like there was something there that I just felt like this fight was like the last. Uh, I need a break, not a last, of course, but I'm just like this is the last bit of energy I had left for the time being. So, in short answer, yes, I want to fight. I want to fight hopefully December, November, December. But right now I'm not even thinking about it. I know I like not even considering it. Right now it's just a blanket no, no, no. Like, I'm also 32. I recognize that. If I was maybe 24, 26, 27, I probably would have taken the rest of the year off, to be honest with you. Like just train and just enjoy the process again. Because from my previous fight in April, I was so upset because the fight was going well, and then I made a mistake in the scramble, and that's on me. That's not on anybody else. I was in the gym the next morning, so I really haven't taken any time off um, since January because I started getting ready in January for this, and then go. So I just need a bit of time off. So yeah, I think December would probably be ideal. I don't know what's going on with Prospect, to be honest with you. I don't know if with the cancellation of the show getting rescheduled to October, if the December date is getting affected. Of course, if
Yeah.
it's in London, I would love that. I don't know what's happening, to be honest with them.
Yeah,
To be honest, I do have an obligation, a contractual obligation with them that they let me out for this one fight because I was supposed to fight on the canceled show, actually. Um, and they let me out. So I don't know what's happening. Of course, them or BTC, I'm good with either, to be honest. They're both great organizations. They both treated me great. Whatever happens, happens.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that is fair. You definitely do deserve some time off after that last fight. It was like it was very much a war, like a very much a brawl that
Yeah.
definitely it probably took a toll on you. And you said that, like, this isn't like your only thing. You have a full-time job, you got a mortgage to pay and stuff like that. I was actually going to ask, like, how is that? Like, how is weight cutting and everything and focusing on training while you have to juggle all those responsibilities?
Of course, like at times it's difficult. I feel like I sometimes have I see some of these. I'm admittedly a little bit jealous of some of these guys who that's like fighting is all uh that they have. They can go, I have to, for me, it's a little bit more difficult because I work a full time, I work more than 40 hours a week. I'm lucky that my job is really flexible and they let me, if I need a little bit of time off for fights, that they allow me to do so. Now that's one thing is I get time off for the fight. I don't get time off for training, right? The things have to go. So I have to make do with what I can, whether that is putting in my 2 afternoon sessions, whether that is um, getting one morning session, one night session, whether that is staying up till 2 in the morning going for my runs. I have to make it work. My biggest thing is find a way. That's something that I always go back to, and I just find a way to make it work. Is it exhausting? Yes. Am I away from my wife for extended amounts of time? Yes. Does that suck? Yes, of course. Thankfully, she's very understanding, and she knows that I've been very open to saying, listen, I was doing this before her and I met, but she's been very supportive. She's been with me since before my first amateur fight. You know what I mean? Her and I next month will be 11 years together. So it's so she's been very supportive of it. She understands it. But of course, it is mentally, it does take a toll. But I think she's not that I think I know she's understanding. And in terms of work, I just have to, whether that is staying up late to get the job done, whether that's whatever that is. Of course, I'm in the office 2 days a week. Certainly, that I'm able to compartmentalize um, and do the work. I'm very thankful that what I do for a living, I actually really enjoy, so that it's not really, it isn't a chore by any means. I do like to do it, but of course, it's difficult. But you know, if we always just did the shit that we wanted to do at all times, life would suck. Like that's how shit life would be, right? Like, because then you wouldn't know what the good things are with the bad things. I embrace the fact that I have other responsibilities. I embrace the fact also that, I do have a mortgage and I do have other things because I'm one of those people that, I know people, like some people say, oh, fighting is the best when you have no other options. And that's when the best. It works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me. I like to know that I have something at the end, because then when I'm fighting, I give everything, because I give everything to the training and I give everything I have uh, in the fight, because I know that I'm going to be secure at the end of the day. I know that my financial future is not at present dependent. Of course, I would love it to be, but at present is not dependent on a fight. Because the worst part about, I read in Chael Sonnen's book, the worst part about losing a fight is it impedes your ability to fight. Or if you get hurt in a fight and you get cut up, you can't fight again. What does that mean? You lose your livelihood. You lose financial. Your financial gain is in jeopardy, because then you can't compete as much, because that is your income. I don't have that worry. I go in 100% in the fight. I'm always ready to go. I'm always on weight. Um, yes, I sacrifice in different ways, but this is also, I get to do this. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have to do this. I get to do this. And I think I do a pretty good job, and I'm dedicated and I work really hard. So I feel like by training really, really hard, getting in my 2 a days, whatever ways that is, and working and taking care of my responsibilities as a husband and a homeowner, that my deserve level is at a point where when I'm in there, I'm like, I deserve to win this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to find a way.
I actually like that. I like that, like, find a way mantra. I've been kind of using it myself lately ever since I like discovered you. I like it. It very much like means a lot to me because yeah, you're right. Like, how can we know about the good things if everything that we do that we want to do is like what we want to do? Like, how do we know if we have things good if we're not doing the bad things? I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But like outside of fighting, outside of like your full time job, like how do you like to unwind? Like beyond training and shit, what's your hobbies? What's your interests? Like what's Gino
Oh,
about?
huh. That's a really good question, because fighting is a huge part of my identity. Ironically, fighting and work are things that I do as pastimes. Obviously, I'll do, I'll play a little bit of video games, I guess. I'll hang out with buddies. I don't do anything that crazy, to be honest with you.
Okay.
To be honest, one of my pastimes is work. I like to work. I like to work on other projects. I work for a couple of companies. And yeah, if I have some time, obviously spend some time with my wife, whether we go on walks and trail hikes and things like that, or playing with my dog, with her dog here. So, but yeah, no, my focus is the things that I do every day are literally my hobbies too. So it's kind of works out great.
Okay, yeah, that actually does work out great. You're not really just can't kind of straying too far from things. And
No,
you said you like play video games every now and then. Like what's your game? What's your go-to game mainly?
right now I am playing Final Fantasy 16
Okay. Oh
on
yeah,
the
that just came
PS5.
out.
And yeah, so I've been playing that. I've been just playing a little bit of everything, to be honest. I bought, like, 'cause I have a PS5 and a Nintendo Switch. I bought Zelda. I cannot get into it, so I'm gonna try again in a couple weeks after I finish Final Fantasy. Right now I've actually been on ironically, a little bit of a Call of Duty kick, just because I don't have to think, like it's just a little bit mindless. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But I usually like those big open world type games. Like I like the Spider-Mans, I like the Zelda, like those Final Fantasy, like those are the types of stuff that I typically enjoy. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm into.
Okay, I like that because I'm very much into the open world games myself. I'm actually really excited for
Hmm.
Spider-Man 2, honestly. Like
Oh,
I'm
same.
really excited for that. But
Yes.
um what's it called? Call of Duty, yeah, it really is just mindless fun. Like, it's definitely one of those games where you just hop on with the boys, you have a couple beers or something, hop into DMZ or Warzone, and just basically piss around and just fuck off. Like, you really just don't care.
Yeah, that's literally it. And the funny thing is, I actually hate the voice chat in it, like the public voice chat. So I mute all of it. I just want to sit there and just relax and just like not think about anything. And that is actually like, for me, that's kind of relaxing. Like I kind of just enjoy doing that. Now I have, I have an attention span of them off when it comes to that. After 20 minutes, I just turn it off. But I enjoy, I guess that's one thing that I enjoy doing lately is just unwinding and doing that. And I have kicks. Like sometimes I'll get really into a game, and then sometimes I just can't get into anything. So just depends.
Oh, I'm the same way. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
game for maybe a couple days, maybe a week or so, and then there'll be months and months where I just can't sit down for more than like 10, 20 minutes and play a game. And sometimes I won't even get past the start screen.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
But anyway, Gino, do you have anything you want to like shout out or kind of just advertise while we're here before we
Um,
send things off?
yeah, I just wanted to shout out, I guess, my coaches and my training partners. My corner, Josh Hill, who's just, I you know, since my pro debut, which was in 2019, I moved out here, and I kind of, I got in touch with him, and I really think, under his guidance, working with him, Liam Gallagher, Isaiah Sharp, like, guys from Vision Quest, and then, working at BTC, Bora, and Agus, Niagara Top Team. I know I go in with all these guys, and of course, original home gym Adrenaline. I feel like it really, it's obviously all spearheaded by Josh. I feel like he's really turned my fight career around. I always say he helped give me a chance, which is all I really ever wanted. Of course, my other coach, Jesse Goff. I've got Coach Mark back in London. I've got it takes a whole village. Paul Gilbert. All these guys, Lyndon, Matt McDonald. Like, it takes a village to make it work, and their sacrifices for all of us. Really, it's a big deal, and it means a lot. So I just wanted to give them all a shout out, and just if they just for them to know that I do it. It means a lot, because time to me is the most valuable thing in the world, and they just give it selflessly, and it means a lot. So beyond that, now my family, obviously, and people who've kind of been with me every step of the way. It always means a lot. It means a lot more than just words can say.
I love that. That's actually absolutely beautiful. And like speaking of coaches, man, you have so many elite guys at your disposal to go to. Like honestly, the list that you have at your disposal, that like the amount of gyms that you could go to, just insane. Like the people that you
Yeah,
the people that you shouted out are just some of like the most elite fighters that I've heard come out of Canada most recently. And by the way, Josh Hill was robbed last night. I will say
yeah.
that
Hey,
before I
man, I
continue
know,
the
I know,
podcast.
I know. 100%. I don't even know. Jeez. Yeah,
Bellator judges, man. Bellator judges.
yeah, for real.
But anyway, thank you for joining me, man. This actually means a lot to me. It was
Hey,
an absolute honor having you on.
hey, the pleasure was mine. I appreciate you taking the time having me on. It means a lot.
Of course, man. Ever since I saw you at PFC 14, I've been an absolute fan. I've loved your fight
I
style, and
appreciate
just
that.
I like how like in the cage you're the heel, but like outside of the cage you're one of the most like down to earth, humble dudes that I've ever talked to. So
uh,
honestly, I love it. I just love every bit of it.
no, I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Anyway, man, I'll see you guys. I'll see
All
you
right.
later, and thank you for
Yeah,
joining me.
yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, guys, that was amazing. That was Gino. Go check him out on Instagram at Gino Gahl, GinoGhal. He's honestly just a dope ass dude, very chill, very down to earth, and like his fighting style is very much just gritty, very much brawler, and I love it. So it was an absolute honor to have him on, and once again, like I know he's not here, but I got to thank him because that was an absolute pleasure. It was a great talk to have, and I hope you guys enjoyed every bit of it as much as I did. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next half of the podcast. Let's get into that. Before we get into the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about my new sponsor, Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a powdered energy drink that is actually a clean energy drink that's made to give you a focus with no crash or jitters or any angst that the other energy drinks on the market give you. They're also made with no maltodextrin fillers. They don't use any artificial dyes or any coloring, anything like that. And on top of that, W contains vitamins, amino acids, nootropics, and caffeine that keeps you going. And on top of that, it's gluten free. So if you're worried about your gluten intake, it's okay. These guys got you covered. And if you're worried about it coming out of a facility that's not FDA approved or FDA inspected, these guys, they're doing it legit. Their product's made in an FDA inspected facility and their product is FDA approved. So if you want to try any of these awesome flavors, because let's be honest, I'm about to tell you this, their flavors are all unique. You're not going to find a flavor anywhere else, only here at W. So if you want to try 3 of their awesome new flavors in a starter pack with your own mixer cup, go on their website, pick the starter pack. It's $14.99. If you want to get 10% off of it, use Dillo's Dojo at checkout. That's DILLOS DOJO at checkout for 10% off. Once again, I want to thank W for sponsoring the podcast. Anyway, enjoy your W drink if you manage to use my code. Let's get back to the fights, folks. All right, so that was Gino, everybody. Honestly, that was an honor to have just a nice chat with him. He's honestly one of the most down-to-earth people that I've ever talked to. Honestly, just one of the coolest, chillest people that I've ever talked to. And honestly, very nice and humble. Love every bit of it. Absolute dog of a fighter, and I can't wait to see what his career produces. And honestly, I just wish him nothing but the best. And honestly, I might get him back on the podcast sometime soon because that was really nice. It was a great chat. I really enjoyed it. I hope he did just as much as I did. But yeah, let's move on with everything that's happened in the past week. We'll start with something like stuff that happened. I think as of recording yesterday, because it's Wednesday. I record on Wednesdays, as you guys know. But we are going to be talking about, first of all, The Ultimate Fighter, the finale, and just kind of how the brackets went and how the whole season went. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This whole season was very forgetful. Honestly, could have went without it. The people on it were great, but it just wasn't very personality driven. I do have people who are gonna like I'm gonna follow and cheer for. One of them being Brad Katona, the other one being, honestly, I don't know who to vote for in the final of the lightweight bracket, but like there was obviously some people I was gonna like cheer for and shit, like Jason Knight. But honestly, not that much for personality driven shit. It was all Chandler and McGregor. Very little focus on the fighters other than when they were training and when they were readying for fights. The coaches challenge was very meh this year. It was awesome to see them both try to do like trivia and shit when it comes to UFC and stuff. But like, I saw a video after the fact of Dana very much bitching at the production team that they left the guys in the ice bath for too long. See, that's a problem. All right. I have a problem with that. Isn't Dana the guy who basically put the whole challenge together and okayed it for the producers to do? Didn't he understand how long it was going to take for them to answer questions? He's the one who listened to the producers pitch for the game and said, yeah, 4 3-minute rounds or whatever it is great. 3-minute rounds of multiple questions. Like, no, man. Like, you should have just left it at like 10 questions first to or whoever wins after 10 questions wins. If it's a tie, there's a tiebreaker question, something like that. That would have been a lot easier. It would have went by a lot faster. Poor McGregor and Chandler wouldn't have had to basically almost experience hypothermia. Honestly, man, it's ridiculous. Because it was the whole coach's challenge was just stupid. The whole setup for the whole tournament was dumb as fuck as well. I think I talked about this last week on the podcast, maybe the week before, but the whole setup for the Ultimate Fighter is retarded. It's prospects versus veterans, guys who've been on the scene for a while, guys whose experience and skill set are far greater than the prospects. And Connor, being the idiot he is, chose all prospects. So it was very much just a cut and dry season for the most part. And just very, like I said, very forgettable. But the finale, we have Brad Katona versus resident whiner Cody Gibson. And then in the lightweight bracket, we have Austin Hubbard versus Kurt Hollabaugh. I don't know who to vote for. Kurt Hollabaugh is an absolute fucking dog. a monster with power, with a chin. Austin Hubbard's got that heart too, and he's got that power. Both guys are literally going to bring a fucking war, and I'm excited for it, honestly. That's happening at UFC 292 this weekend. We'll talk about that card in a bit after that. But I just wanted to kind of talk about the Ultimate Fighter and then get into I wanted to get into actually Contender Series because there was some pretty sweet fights that happened. I think I think I talked about it on the podcast last week, but the main event of this week's Dana White's Contender Series was actually George Hardwick versus Al Sawadi. And honestly, we'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about all of that in a bit. The fight didn't go. It was a great fight, but it didn't go the way I expected it to. It didn't go away. All right, it didn't go the way a lot of people expected it to. That's probably a better way to put it. But anyway, we'll get into the results. So the start of the fight start of the fight card, we had Cameron Smotherman versus Charalampos Gregorou. And Gregorou just kind of came out of the bat swinging, hit him with some nice shots, and literally pushed through with some heavier shots, finished Cameron Smotherman in a minute, literally in 60 seconds, made a fucking statement. Like, that is the way. That is the way to win on Contender Series if you want to secure yourself a contract with Dana White. That is the way to do it. And honestly, this whole, the whole week, the whole fight card, everybody basically did what they needed to do to prove that they were, worthy to be in the UFC. That being said, our next fight was a female fight, and Eduarda Moura, again, did exactly what you're supposed to do to prove to Dana that you deserve a contract. She took Janina Silva down, took control early, just completely threatened submissions over and over and over again, took her back, and after about 4 minutes, secured it, sunk it, forced a tap. It was beautiful. That is, like I said, that is literally the way you do it. You get a first round finish, you show Dana that you've got the skill set, and you deserve to be in one of his divisions. Like, that is the way you do it, man. And all of a sudden, we had a nice finish streak, but then this war happened. Haider Emil versus Emrah Sonmez of Turkey, man. This one was insane. Sonmez came out, both guys came out swinging, genuinely. But Sonmez came out with a nice, punching heavy style, hit Emil with some heavy punches, started landing some takedowns, and it was like takedown after takedown after takedown. Bro tried to be Merab. Like, that's the best way to put it is, bro tried to be Merab. So, that's what happened. He gassed himself out like Merab probably should have, but Merab's got the cardio of a god. And honestly, it was hilarious to see. He was doing so well in the first 5 minutes. He was constantly threatening takedowns. I think he got a couple, but after a while, Haider Emil was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna keep defending it." He kept defending it, did great scrambles, great sprawls, made sure it stayed on the feet, and then started hitting Sonmez with some nice shots. And then after the first 5 minutes, Sonmez went back to his stool. He looked visibly gassed. Emil was getting gassed too, but nowhere even close to the level that Sonmez was. And so Emil took advantage of that. He stayed at distance, started piecing Sonmez up with some nice shots, some nice kicks, some nice combos, some nice check hooks, like beautiful check hooks, landing some nice leg kicks, forcing the takedowns. And every time that Sonmez went for a takedown, nice scramble, kept it on the feet every single time. And that is literally how the rest of the fight went. Both guys hitting each other with some power punches, but it was Emil getting the better of the striking exchanges. Sonmez trying to level change, but unable to actually get the takedowns. Emil getting the 29-28 victory. And honestly, if you're going to get a decision victory, that's the way to do it on Contender Series, because you showed that you can actually handle pressure of a wrestler. You can actually strike, and you can handle getting hit by power shots. Because Sonmez hit Emil with some nice shots. Some shots that, I'm going to be honest, hurt him and should have dropped him, should have put him out. But Haider Emil was like, nope, not having that. We're good. We're chilling. We're bing chilling. And kept moving. Just kept going. Just kept punching. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. And if that wasn't enough, man, we had another fight between Ibo Aslan and Paulo Hanato Jr. I thought Hanato Jr. was going to get the takedown, get the submission. Easy done. Easy said, done. Nah, man. It stayed on the feet. Aslan hit him with some nice leg kicks. Started to kind of close the distance with those leg kicks, make him wonder. Hit him with some beautiful shots that just connected. Those shots, man, they started to add up. Those headshots started to add up. And then around 2 minutes, like a little bit after 2 minutes into the second round or into the first round, he landed a nice combo that just put him out cold, man. And like again, I'm repeating myself because like I said, this card was just that good. If you're gonna do something to earn yourself a contract on this series, this is it. Getting a first round impressive knockout over an incredibly game opponent is exactly it. Last week we had the dud that was fucking Kyle Machado, and we won't even talk about it. But this week has so far been nothing but bangers, and that shows in the next fight because the last fight of the night was Abdul Karim El Solwadi versus George Hardwick, Cage Warriors champ, and he was okay. I'm gonna be honest here. Before I get into this fight, Abdul Karim Al Sawadi was getting so disrespected leading up to this fight. All the media guys leading up to last night's fights were just asking questions about George Hardwick, constantly talking about George Hardwick, asking El Sawadi what it would be like to take the shine from George Hardwick, as if it's not his shine either, as if he's not worthy to be here and he's basically just being fed to George Hardwick. And my God, this fight was so satisfying because I don't know what the fuck George Hardwick was doing, man. All these people hyping George Hardwick up, and I'm not going to say that he's not a bad fighter. Like, he's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. But last night, I don't know what the fuck was going through his head. I don't know what fucking game plan he had going for him, man. But it wasn't the game plan to go. It wasn't the game plan that was going to win him anything because his whole game plan consisted of walking El Sawadi down, landing body shot, profit. Like that was literally it. Just walk down, land body shot, profit. Eat some punches, walk them down, body shot, profit. Like, don't do anything. Like, after the body shot, there was no follow-ups, there was no kicks, there was no combos, no, like, body to head, no head to body, nothing. Literally just one body shot, and he would keep pushing forward. And then every now and then he'd land a jab, and either Sawadi would cover it, like he would fucking, like, block it, or he would just eat it, and then that's it. There would be no follow-up shots. It wasn't until the third round that George Hardwick was like landing shots and starting to kind of land combos more and more and more. It was just constantly one shot and then la 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 la, one shot, la 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 la, and El Sawadi just piecing him the fuck up. So it was a pretty obvious decision once the scorecards were read, once the 3 rounds were up. El Sawadi won a 30-27 decision, pieced the fuck up out of George Hardwick, dropped him a couple times. It was beautiful. It was very satisfying for somebody who was basically being just pushed aside. He wasn't the star of this week. He completely shocked all the media members when they realized George Hardwick has been fighting fucking tomato cans on the European scene. There's some decent fighters on the European scene. I'm not going to disrespect them. But a lot of the guys in the lightweight division of Cage Warriors, like, there's some better guys out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was it for Dana White's Contender Series. Now, we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes. We'll get into last week's UFC fights. And then we'll get into this week's card, this weekend's card. We'll talk about that. And then that'll probably be it for this week's podcast because it's starting to kind of run a little too long. Last week I went on for like an hour and 6 minutes. I'm trying not to do too much to that because I know you guys don't really like me to drone on. So anyway, let's get into these fights. Honestly, we had a pretty decent card on paper. I talked about it last week. We're only going to talk about the main card, by the way, because the main card was pretty solid on paper. You know, name-wise, not many big names for, like, casuals to like. But for a hardcore fan like me who's been watching the sport and watching the UFC in particular for years and years and years, on paper, this card looked wonderful. And I mean, honestly, dude, the main event is violence personified. Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. Didn't end up being that, but it was still a good fight nonetheless. But, like, that, even the co-main event was a banger, man. Like, Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. Like, come on, man. That's so good. For a fucking hardcore fan, that is so good, man. Cub always brings a brawl, and Hakeem Dawodu has power and loves to strike. Like, come on, man. But anyway, we'll start off with the first fight of the night of the main card. Sorry, not of the night, but of the main card. Josh Fremd versus Jamie Pickett. This fight was pretty cut and dry once the fight started. It was just Josh Fremd with an M, he just landed at distance, man, just constantly landing at will, and then would close the distance with a cage, like, just hugging him against the cage, and then he would get the takedown. And once on the ground, it was just total control, either on the ground or against the cage, and it was that for like 3 rounds, earning him a decision. And then the next fight was basically that with Tafon and Chukwi. AJ Dobson literally just putting the heat on him for 3 rounds. It was just very cut and dry. This one, though, the women's strawweight bout that we were going to talk about, this one surprised me. Poliana Viana is a woman who is very revered in the strawweight division. Very good. Very, very, very well-rounded. Yasmin, though, she's very, very fucking good on the ground. Very decent on the feet. She's good enough on the feet so she can handle herself. Very good on the ground. And my God, I completely just, like, that knowledge that I have of her went out the window when I was talking about this fight with friends, because yeah, I completely forgot that she is a fucking game ground fighter. And she was standing with Vienna for a while, but when it got to the ground, man, it was just no contest. In the second round, man, it was just yeah, there, like I said, no contest once it got to the ground, and she finally found a submission, forced the tap. That was it. That was all. The co-main event, or not the co-main event, the fight before the co-main event, Khalil Roundtree versus Chris Daukaus. A lot of people didn't think about this unless you were, like, again, a hardcore fan. This was a mismatch. So Chris Daukaus is on a 3-fight win or lose streak, not win streak, at heavyweight. This was his first fight at light heavyweight. He was dropping down from heavyweight because he was on a 3-fight knockout streak, where every fight he lost was by knockout. Clearly, he has an issue with power. Who do they feed him for his first light heavyweight fight? None other than striking powerhouse Khalil Roundtree. Someone who most, if not all of his fucking wins have come by knockout. Who the fuck made this fight happen? And even more, who the fuck signed this for him? Whoever did is an idiot, because what happened is exactly what you would think what would happen by someone whose last 3 fights have come by knockout. You know what I mean? Khalil Roundtree knocked his ass out in 2 minutes. Beat the fuck out of him for 2 minutes, and then 40 seconds left, like 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the round, just TKOs him. Fucking beats the living shit out of him. Like, hits him with the right cross to kind of put a stamp on things, man. And, like, what the fuck? What did you expect? The man's last 3 fights have been by knockout. Like, he's lost all by knockout. And then you give him a guy whose fucking MO is knocking people out. Terrible matchmaking. That's what it is. But then the co-main event, Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. This was a fucking banger, man. It was a all-around mixed martial arts fight. Ground game for days. Striking for days. Hakeem Dawodu fucking getting dropped by Cub Swanson, getting outstruck by Cub Swanson, but then in the second round, picking up steam and dropping Cub Swanson, having him hurt, man. Getting him to the ground. Fucking just all-out scrambles. Third round, it was both, like, honestly, it could have been either guy's round, but I think Dawodu got the most of the striking and had Cub hurt, not dropped, but hurt, rocked. And oh my God, just what a fight, dude. What a fight. I don't know if he awarded a fight of the night bonus for last weekend, but Cub Swanson and Hakeem Dawodu fucking deserved it. It was awesome. It was a great way to lead us into the main event. By the way, Cub Swanson won in a very, very, very close decision. Even he thought he lost it. A lot of people thought he'd won it. A lot of other people thought he had lost it. Surprisingly, no one was really screaming robbery about this one. And all is good in the world. All is right in the world. We lead into the main event. Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. This came as a surprise. Maybe it's time as RDA either hangs him up or goes to a different league, because Vicente Luque, for 5 rounds, RDA had his moments, showed that he was a problem for Vicente Luque, but for 5 rounds, man, Vicente Luque just controlled him for 5 rounds, got the decision. It came as a surprise to me because I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was, but it was very much just from start to finish, Vicente Luque with the foot on the gas pedal. He was just driving. He was in the driver's seat. RDA was the passenger princess. This was his fight. But nonetheless, it was still a good fight. RDA tried. RDA had his moments, but ultimately, Vicente Luque really showing that like his only losses are just to bad guys, man, and very very elite fighters. And honestly, when time comes to fight like somebody else in the top 15, he can deliver. You know what I mean? He's still a game fighter, so I don't know. It was a great way to end the fights. But this weekend, man, the main card. Let's get into that. Like honestly, let's even talk about the prelims because that's where the fucking tough fights are happening. Like to open up I think the prelims are happening on ABC. I might be wrong. They could be on ESPN and ABC, but to start off the televised prelims, Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson for the Tough 31 bantamweight finale. Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard for the lightweight Tough 31 finale. By the way, that lightweight fight is going to be a fucking banger. I'm excited for it. And then if that's not enough, Gregory Rodriguez versus Dennis Talulin. That's going to be awesome because Talulin, despite having a meh record, brings the fight every time. Gregory Rodriguez is an all-around just knockout artist, very good mixed martial artist. And then if that's not enough, Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. I'm a little worried for Chris Weidman. I think Brad Tavares honestly gets this, but man, like this prelims, the early prelims are even stacked too. Like Andre Petroski's on there, Andrea Lee's on there. Like fuck, man. But the main card is where it's at. Let's be honest. A lot of you guys are here for the main card. Starting up the main card is Marlon Vera versus Pedro Munoz. And then to save the fight, because Cody Garbrandt had to pull out of his fight with Mario Batista, Damon Blackshear trying to set a record, by the way, for the quickest turnaround in UFC history. Right now, Khamzat Chimaev has it at 10 days. This is going to be a 7-day turnaround. He literally just won last weekend. And he's about to fight on UFC 292 on the main card. This is going to be huge. And then, obviously, Neil Magny versus Ian Gary. This almost didn't happen. Neil Magny convinced them to let it happen. Ian Gary was supposed to originally fight Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal had to pull out due to some undisclosed health issues, I think. Ian Gary was pretty upset about it. Neil Magny was like, you know what? I'm going to come in, save the fight. Let's do it. So that's exactly what he did. So we have that on the card. And then in the co-main event, we have a strawweight title fight. Zhang Wei Li versus Amanda Lemos, which is going to be a banger fight because Amanda Lemos is dangerous despite looking almost like 50 years old. And Zhang Wei Li is a dog. She's just dangerous. Dangerous everywhere. Has power, has very technical striking, very dangerous on the ground, quick with submissions, very scrambly, has tight, very hard to defend submissions, just very, very well-rounded. And then if that wasn't enough, we have Aljo versus Sean O'Malley. A lot on the line here with the bantamweight title, and these guys do not like each other. They respect each other as martial artists, but as people, they don't like each other. Aljo thinks Sean O'Malley's a fucking goofball. Sean O'Malley thinks Aljamain Sterling is an Oscar-worthy actor. It's going down Saturday night. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a huge card. And luckily, I have it off this weekend. I have the whole weekend off, so I'll be able to catch every single fight that's happening this weekend, and I'll be able to talk about it on Wednesday for you guys. So I'm excited for that. Anyway, that was it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Gino. Go check him out on Instagram at Gino Gall on Instagram. He posts all of his life shit, his updates for his fights, and hopefully we'll be getting a fight news soon for him. But I'm not gonna, no rush because the guy is very busy. He's got a whole ass life to live. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, or not the video, the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the whole episode. I cannot wait to get him on the podcast again. That's gonna be the goal, definitely. But anyway, I will see you guys next week. See you guys in the next episode.